Hi, welcome to Foreigner in the Philippines, where we're on something of clearing the mind in order to be able to make that goal that you may have. And what we're looking at is that if you have too many things which are in motion in the mind at the same time, then it will be very difficult to actually see the way through the clearing. Now, the old Victorians, I think, used to, in the UK, they used to love doing the mock-up of a confused mind. They would make a maze, and if you turned this way, you would go that way, and then you would find a blank, and then you would have to retrace your steps. You still have to retain some idea of your direction, and you go this way, and turn that way, and this way, and you would, and people used to actually enjoy that. And in a way, what they were doing was they were envisaging the confusion of the mind, which is quite separate from the brain. The brain handles, and people still talk about how to make the best use of your brain. The best use of your brain is to realize that you're not a brain, you are a thinking person, and you're thinking in these huge quantum fields which surround the head, the brain. There's a very good example of how this happens. When you actually learn a very, very difficult skill, you will be teaching, you will be training the mind, and, well, you will be using the mind to train the body in order to be able to say, in the case of, say, a trumpet player or a violin player, especially a violin player, because they have such tiny little fingers and they're making such tiny movements which mean so much. And the meaning behind that is that each must be absolutely perfectly in the right place in order to be in tune. If not, it will sound like that proverbial screaming cat. Okay? Now, can the mind in the moment process that many moves and do it physically? And the answer to that is that it can't actually spontaneously do every single move. It has to learn things in groups, and it does that in this huge area which we have around us, which we use in order to be able to process those skills that we want to develop. And so when you get, what was used, the flight of the bumblebee as an example because it's such a popular thing, everybody knows it, but when the violinist is up there and they're doing, just imagine that this is the violin, and they're doing this on the thing, and they've got it there, and they're doing this, or what is it, like that, right? And they're going, now it's actually impossible for the brain to actually do that many moves and remember each one. So what it does is it starts off and it makes every move one move, and it goes da 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 do. Well, it can do that da do 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 da 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 do 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 do. In the end, it speeds it up. It's now only using one unit of its attention, one moment of energy, in order to be able to go diddle diddle do, diddle diddle do, and then another diddle diddle do, diddle diddle do, diddle diddle do, diddle diddle do. Do you think that the violinist is actually thinking each one of those moves through? No, it's just not possible. It's not possible for that to be done. It has to be learned in whole groups. And when the person, I mean, Rachmaninoff apparently was the biggest challenge for any pianist was to be able to play some of the famous Rachmaninoff pieces, because he was so brilliant that he wrote incredibly complex music. And people had to learn those pieces, and they had to learn them in a different place to the brain. So how can we use what we know about that in order to develop skills, and in order to be able to see our way clear and out of confusions. Well, what you have to do is you have to make a point where you are stable on that. And the biggest, especially if you're in the Philippines and you have these young motorcyclists who are going at twice the speed of anybody else, and they're just zipping in and out of the traffic. Well, how do they do that? How do they allow for all of these vehicles, which are all moving differently? There are other motorcyclists who are not going as fast as them. How do they do it and stay alive? Well, the first confession is, of course, that they don't stay alive, or they limp around on only 1.5 legs for much of their lives. So, but let's look at the successful ones, and they are mocking up in their mind a way to navigate this apparent confusion. Who is doing what? How is that man going to move? And all of this. And what they do is they imagine that everybody else is standing still, and they are the only ones who are moving. That's why they zip through. They're going that much faster than anybody else that the other vehicles and motorcyclists are not moving fast enough to be able to get in their way, because they're just gone. And that's how they sort out the confusion that is there when they're driving. And that is how, when I'm sitting there as an old fart and I'm not prepared to overtake because it would be dangerous, and I'm much too sensible a motorist to do that, aren't I? And a young motorcyclist will go zip, 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 and he's gone. How did he do that? How did he know that someone... Well, he's assumed that compared to his speed, he is standing still. How many times have you had somebody overtake you who was going so fast that you felt as if you were standing still? So what's the little technique here? What's the formula? Right, let's assume that you are in this traffic condition and you don't know what to do. Let's assume that you are being given... Let's assume that you're in a job which you are holding on to by the skin of your teeth, that perhaps you've already made up your mind that that job is too complex for you. Now, the boss comes in and he tells you, I want you to address a letter to Mr. Bloggs. I want you to send a telegram. Showing my age there, aren't I? I want you to send 14 emails out. I want you to send emails to everybody coloured red, and I want you to send texts to everybody coloured white, and everybody that is coloured pink I don't want you to write to at all until next week. Now suddenly you are there and you have so many different duties in order to be able to complete, and you have to be able to sort through. If you looked at the entire thing all in one, would be total confusion. What would you do? What do you do next? You do one thing. What you do is you do what the cyclist does. You imagine that one thing is stationary, just one thing, and you take that one thing and all of the rest you put to one side and you do one thing. Now that one thing may be that you make a list. Let's imagine that the state of confusion is one in which things are moving too fast to actually get a hold on. And that's what happens when you're confused. You are You are in a state where every time you look at one thing, something else takes your attention, which takes your attention, takes your attention, takes you back to your attention. What am I gonna do next? You're going to stop all of this from moving. And what you're going to do is take one thing and say, this is not moving. I can do this. Because, let's face it, sending emails to black, white, yellow, pink, it's not difficult, is it? It's just that you've been given so many that now they're all demanding your attention. They all need help. And if ever you've seen anybody that's confused, they'll be completely dispersed and not able to do anything. That's because they can't hold one thing stationary. You need to hold one thing. And that's what you need to be able to do in order to solve the problem of confusion. Anytime that you get so confused that you don't know what to do next, find one thing that you can do next. It's actually as simple as that. Now, we talked about the pre-start syndrome in order to be able to start something. Well, the pre-start syndrome would come into this, wouldn't it? Because you're trying to decide what to do next. And because you're looking at everything, shall I do this, shall I do that, shall I do this, up there, over there, down here, under there, which shall I do next? Very often, when I was making a complex piece of furniture, what I would end up doing is not knowing, would it be best to do this first, or would it be best to do that first, or would it be best? And what I would do is I would stop thinking. I know that sounds strange. You're in the middle of a problem situation and you're going to stop thinking. How the heck are you going to do anything? I would stop thinking and I would take my pen and I would write down one part of that problem. Just one part. I might just take the sandpaper and rub one section. Now, what have I done? I've stopped everything from moving around me, and I've taken one thing, and now I'm doing one thing. And that's the secret, is that you need to be able to stop all of that movement momentarily until you can fix on one thing. And you pick one thing out of the air and you attend to that. If you were told to go out into a enclosure and pick up all of the chickens, and you go in there and they're all running around, if you go try for this one and then try for that one, there's too many chickens and there's too much movement and you're not going to be able to catch them all at once. So what do? You fix on one chicken. I don't know, take an aerosol can in there and paint him red and then chase that red chicken. But you do that one thing, and that's the secret, is to do the one thing. Now, one thing that I should be doing right now is going out and killing a dog, but we've already got all of the food organized for tomorrow, and we're fine on that, okay? So, and I'm only joking, for those who take things so terribly serious. So, if you have moments at work which are totally confusing, take one thing. Just do one thing and do that. And don't think about any of the others. That's where the not thinking comes in. You find something that you can do without thinking, and you do it. And that's all it takes to overcome what may appear to you to be mind-numbing confusion. There was just so much to do, I didn't know what to do next. That's the familiar cry. And I know what to do next now, because there are so many dogs that I'm going to choose one moment of silence, which will begin very soon. I thank you for watching. I hope it has helped. Sorry about the dogs. Merry Christmas. Okay. This is a foreigner in the Philippines. And bye for now.